Well, day 12 of the Australian Open has become synonymous with women's semi-final night, and we have seen the first of our semi-finals already. Aryna Sabalenka progressing to her third consecutive final here, taking out Paula Badosa. 6-4, 6-2 was the scoreline. Although early in that first set, Jill Craybas, it looked as if Paula Badosa was going to be the quickest one out of the blocks and made a very optimistic start.
I think she knew she had to get a very good start against Sabalenka. You want to get on top as early as you can. And that next game was pretty tight, but Sabalenka got the game, got on the board, and from that moment on, I felt like she just lifted her level. In my opinion, I feel like this is the best match Sabalenka has played here. I think it's always tough playing a really good friend. It's not easy to separate that when you walk out on the court. But players are used to it. It happens all the time. And so she handled herself really well. And that's something Sabalenka has done excellent over the last couple of years, is how she handles her emotions. And she did that really well today. But the ball striking was insane to me. They were both moving well. They were both hitting a ton on the ball. It was just absolutely ridiculously good.
I mean, it's always tough to play against your friend, but as I always say, a long time ago, we decided that, like off the court, we're friends, but on the court, we're opponents. And whatever happens on the court, it stays there. And, after the match, we're back to be friends again. But yeah, that was a difficult match. She played incredible tennis. And I'm really happy to see her back on her best level, and I just told her things are going her way, just stay there, fight, and you're gonna get it.
Clearly, the key is 7 to 9 hours of sleep, a protein bar, a protein shake, and a cup of coffee.
Yep.
I feel like maybe I, too, can maybe one day be in an Australian Open final.
It's a good routine.
No, incredible play from Aryna Sabalenka. And I think back to the fifth game of the first set, which I think was so pivotal, not just because Paula Badosa got broken in that game, but because it was a soul-crushing game, because she had a couple of game points to get it done, to get the hold. She saved 3 break points before finally getting broken, 5 deuces, I think, total. So that was a tough one mentally, and then you could just see things shift after that point.
Yeah, and I think we saw a two-time now defending champion of the Australian Open just elevate her game when she really needed to. I agree with Jill. I think it was clearly, from my perspective, the best I've seen her look over the fortnight so far. Whoever it is that meets her on Championship Saturday, that's going to be a stern task. And I think it's a really intimidating task to be coming up against Aryna Sabalenka. So Paula Badosa doesn't have her best night on serve. She serves 53% of first serves in the court, and then she has a really hard time on second serve, whereas Aryna Sabalenka, she elevated her serving performance tonight. So we've seen her average mid to high 160s so far in the event. She went up on the speedo, if you like, tonight. She went up 10, 11, 12 Ks on first serve.
Wow.
So she's doing a lot more damage than we've seen from her so far in the event, and just all over the Paula Badosa second serve. And then once she established court position, then she's just unleashing on the forehand. And that was a gap in the match tonight that I didn't necessarily expect. We haven't seen it so far. She averaged tonight 15 Ks an hour faster on forehand side than Paula Badosa, really just bullying her around the court. So I thought we saw her elevate tonight.
So is there anything else that Paula could have done to get a little bit more of a foothold in this match, do you think?
Well, there was a moment where I was thinking, after the first set, because I was thinking what she could do to adapt. And in the beginning of the second, I think she just got into this battle of trying to overpower Sabalenka, which was not working. And I think that happens sometimes when you're flustered, when you're not finding a way necessarily. And her go-to was to just go harder and harder, and it just kind of fed into what Sabalenka likes. And what Sabalenka did really well is what she's been trying to incorporate in her game for the past year and a half, is that more variety. She threw in some backhand slices. Sometimes when she set up to hit the forehand when she could, sometimes she opted to go angle instead. And I love that she's bringing that stuff in, a few drop shots as well. I mean, for the majority of the time, she was hitting hard and going after it. But she has options now to disrupt the rhythm and play. And I think that helped. But I also think Paula could have maybe incorporated that a little bit more, because she has that heavy spin to be able to spread the court a bit more.
Yeah, and I think in terms of pressure points, you have to probably face the reality that when you're up against Aryna Sabalenka, you're going to be digging or attempting to dig yourself out of some holes on serve. And we spoke last night about maybe there's the possibility of serving at her body and trying to limit the damage she can do that way. The other thing I'd probably throw out is not a lot of evidence tonight in terms of serve location when she was down or level on her serve, Paula Badosa, of her serving wide to either side to at least give herself a chance to get on top of the point and make Aryna Sabalenka cover some more court to the first ball. But as we said, she had a poor serving night overall from a first serve and play perspective. And I think this is the wrong woman, especially right now, to be having a poor serving night against.
Yeah, and it's really all summed up when you look at the winner count.
Yeah.
So Paula 11, Aryna 32, and she just was pouncing on anything in the middle third of that court. I did think Paula left a lot of balls short today. Just again, not quite as deep as it needed to be if you're going to be hitting in that middle third. Worked out for her.
Yeah, and off the winner count, 17-3 off forehand side. So of those 32 that Blair's describing, 17-3 off the forehand wing. So it's a big gap in the match.
So what I'm hearing is that Sabalenka is primed
On
for
fire.
this final.
Yeah.
In press, she was asked if she was scared, which I thought was an interesting
That
way
is-
to,
I saw
to
that.
phrase
That
a
is-
question.
yeah.
And she said, "Scared? Like, no, I'm past that
Yeah.
at this point. She is hungry. She, I think, wants to play Iga in the final. She wants that opportunity, 1 versus 2. We'll see if it happens."
If things are going against her, there's not that same sense of panic that perhaps there once was. So there's a greater degree of clarity of thought. She's a little more patient and forgiving with herself, not as quick to hit the panic button. So I think she's obviously an intimidating prospect when she's a front runner, and she's giving herself a better chance now, if and when things are going against her on the scoreboard, to fight her way and think her way back into the contest.
Fantastic to also see a lot of the legends up there watching on, and Tyra Banks in the front row of
Yeah.
Rod Laver Arena.
Tyra was serving a Luke, as we say in the United States. Not a look, an Lewk,
Okay.
John.
Meaning?
Meaning you can't really describe it other than to say it's a Luke.
Turning our attention now to day 13, and it's time for the men to take centre stage for their semi-finals. And Jill, the first match we're going to look at is Jannik Sinner. He takes on Ben Shelton, the Showtime Shelton, in the first semi-final. How do you see this one playing out?
I mean, I edge Sinner because just he's playing extremely well. I think Ben's going to have to rely on his massive serve. I think that's going to be a huge aspect to his game that he's going to need against Sinner, because it's the only way I think he's going to get the short balls that he wants to attack, but he's going to have to attack right away because Sinner, obviously one of the best movers. I think Sinner, the way he played against Demonor was ridiculous. He played so good. I think that matchup obviously suits Sinner. I mean, he's 10-0 now against Demonor, so but Ben has a lot that he can go to. He can come into the net, which he's been doing a lot more. He came into the net a lot against Sonego, and it worked to his advantage. He had a really good percentage coming forward. I think he's going to try and do that. He even served and volley a few times, which I think, if the body serve coming in and serve and volley, I think could be effective. Not all the time, but just throwing it in. I mean, I think it's going to be a really good contest, and I think we're going to see a lot of, entertainment, which is going to be great. A lot of big shots from Ben, but I feel like the Sinner's going to be a little bit too solid and consistent, and he's starting to hit really big off the ground. He started incorporating that a year ago. And I remember when he started to go full force on the forehand in particular, and he was missing a lot, but he kept at it, and now it's not a risky shot for him. So he's starting to go really big off the ground. So I think Sinner has the edge, but I think it's going to be a great match.
So what does Shelton have to do against Sinner that Alex de Minaur was unable to do in the quarterfinal?
Well, I like that from Jill. Full force. I think that's what Shelton has to bring to the court tomorrow night. So he does have to go full force against Jannik. He's got the weapons, Ben. And then we spoke a couple of days ago too, John. Sometimes with Ben Shelton, for all the weaponry that he does possess, on occasion, you can see him retreat and almost rely on his physicality. And he's an explosive athlete, so he can use that explosiveness to come at you. Sometimes I think he falls into the trap of using that explosiveness and that athleticism and that shot making to be the defender, to be the counterpuncher, to be retreating in the court. I don't like his chances if he goes to the second of those plans tomorrow night. If he mixes it up, if he goes full force, if he's prepared to hit and come in, to serve and volley sometimes, to try and challenge Jannik, to take it out of what we would call a kind of first to 11 contest from the back of the court. I don't like his chances in that baseline exchange. So the more he can dish up something different to that, I think the better his chances. Even then, it's a heck of a big ask.
One of the things that I have been so amazed by watching Ben and also knowing his dad, Brian, is their commitment to the big picture. Ben is always working on things, which seems crazy to do that in a Grand Slam match en route to the semifinals, but he's always working on different ways to approach his tennis. That's why we don't see him use the bomb serve as much as he could, because he's working on his placement. That's something that Brian Shelton has actually been criticized a little bit about, saying, you know, as the coach, you should be telling your student who has that massive bomb serve to go for the bomb serve. But that's been something that they've worked on very intentionally, is working on the placement, mixing up spins. There is a legendary story about Ben when he was still playing challenger tennis in late 2022, was working on his serve and volley, played an entire challenger match, served and volleyed on every single service point that he had. And that is so rare, I think, especially for a young player, to be able to get over the results, not care about the result, but be committed to your big picture development. So I actually think it's possible that we have not seen Ben's best tennis yet, because he's been finding maybe other ways to get to the finish line. And he said that in press. He said, you know, the biggest difference in me now is to get to the semifinals, I'm not having to redline.
Yeah.
And route. I am within my comfort zone. So I am thinking we might see a gear from Ben against Sinner that we haven't seen yet.
Well, also after Shelton's quarterfinal win over Lorenzo Sonego, he was asked what a pass mark would be, a show of success for Australian Open 2025.
I think that with what I've shown myself, the toughness that I've played with, the different ways that I've been able to win, it's already a success. Winning 5 matches in a tournament is always a success, especially when they're 3 out of 5 sets. I'm a person, anytime I show up to a tournament, 1, I think I can win it, and 2, I want to win it. And when you don't, you go back to the drawing board. And it's a tough tour with a lot of amazing players, and to play your best tennis on the weekends and win titles on Sunday is something that I'm obviously striving for and shooting for.
So he seems relaxed and confident. So there's a sense of freedom that he's going to be playing with against Jannik Sinner.
I think he still wants more. I mean, I'm sure he sounds happy with, you know, getting to this stage, but they always want more. And yes, I think all these players, I do feel like, are about the process, but it's actually believing that down to the core, that it is about the process, because you can get hung up on the results. He seemed to have an amazing perspective on that and understands that. I do like the fact that he feels like he can win in different ways, because I feel like that's what he's going to need. Because that's where the top players do the best, is when they're down and they're not winning, they have to find a different way. And so I think that's awesome that he has all these tools that he can choose from. He can mix it up on the serve, as Blair said. And I saw a lot of kick serves that he used against Sonego, which worked very well. But it's about, and I think he's gotten to this stage, he's still very young, but I think he's gotten to this stage where he's understanding even more when to use those shots, because players that have so many tools like a Ben or an Alcaraz, sometimes you have so much to choose from that it can get confusing. And I do feel like you see that in Ben, that he's starting to understand and get a little bit smarter about when to use these things when, and understanding what the opponent's good at and stuff like that. It's great to see. I know for sure he's going to want more. But I love his perspective.
There's one number here that I'm looking at that I think both Blair and Jill have done a great job of describing. So far, on backhand side at this Australian Open, or in 2025 from Ben Shelton, 40% of the time we see him take the chip option, going with the slice backhand. That's a big number. That's a lofty number. I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about this match tomorrow, and I'm thinking, if Ben's slicing to survive in the point, I think that's trouble. So if he's a long way back in the court and being bullied by the Jannik Sinner ground strokes, that's trouble. If he's using that slice offensively, thinking, I'm going to test you, Jannik, I'm going to bring you forward, I'm going to knife this thing, I'm going to test that. That grip can sneak a little bit around. I'm going to see if I can challenge you offensively with my slice. That's a whole different ball game. So I think there's a number there, but there's 2 different pieces of context or thinking behind the number, and that's one of the things I'm going to be looking at tomorrow night.
Couple quick things.
Yep.
Number 1, I went back and checked to see how Jannik Sinner has historically done against lefties. So he's 27-10 in his career, but since he's been steadily in the top 10, beginning of 2023, he's 12-1 against lefties, and his only loss was to Shelton in Shanghai in 2023. That I was thinking maybe there's something,
there.
A little lefty bump. I'm not sure that that's going to bother Jannik Sinner, but I will say, win or lose, I don't know if you guys know this yet, but Ben has a plan B.
Oh yeah, the side hustle.
Yeah. Car salesman.
Yeah. We look forward to buying our
He's
next
going to be
vehicle.
fine.
Good luck to Ben Shelton and Jannik Sinner tomorrow. Well, the other semi-final is, of course, Novak Djokovic and Alex Zverev. This is going to be super fascinating. Head-to-head is
8-4, I think.
8-4 in favour of Djokovic. Does Zverev have a good chance here to make his first Australian Open
I definitely
final?
think so, yeah. I definitely think he's got a great chance, actually. I mean, a lot of obviously depends, the obvious thing we have to say is depends how healthy Novak is feeling. So hopefully, the hamstring's going to be fine. It was taped. It looked like by the end of the match he was moving okay, so that's good news that he's had a couple days to recover. He's going to be up for this match, but Zverev has the weapons definitely to beat him. He's done it 4 times before and numerous times on hard court. So I think 3 of the 4 times were on hard courts when he beat Novak. It's funny because I've talked to a couple people that have actually think Zverev's going to win this one from the beginning before the tournament started.
Okay.
So there's been a few that have talked about it. They just, I don't know why, they think he looks ready. I know sometimes when he gets to this stage and when he plays big matches and it gets an intense moment, he can kind of retreat sometimes. I don't think he thinks that he's going to be able to do that. He's going to know that he can't do that.
Yep.
And he's proven before against the Djokovic, Alcaraz, for example, that he can't do that. And I've seen him play Alcaraz where he just knows he can't and he just goes for it. And so you kind of hope he's at that stage for his sake if he wants to make the final here. But yeah, I think he can do it.
Is this another one where Zverev's going to have to be more offensively focused and get inside the baseline?
Well, I think so. And Jill just stole my thunder because that was the point that I was wanting to make. Is I think when push comes to shove, if he's prepared to be consistently aggressive throughout the course of this match, I think he can get it done. But as soon as you hesitate, just a fraction, I think you allow Novak right back into the match and you allow him to get it on his terms again from the back of the court. So one thing about these two is that their second serve return profiles are so different. Like we see Zverev a lot of the time, 5, 6, 7 times out of 10, a long way back in the court on second serve. We very rarely, if ever, see Novak there. He's nearly always on or inside the baseline. And that's a bit of a tug of war here because clearly Zverev serves huge. And we know how good a returner Novak is. I don't know if any of us have ever seen a better returner than Novak. So there's a little bit of the tug of war. Zverev on second serve return, typically he's going way back. Novak's coming forward. There's a lot of heat coming at Novak on the Zverev first and second serve. Let's see how that comes out. And then I'm right there with Jill. I think if Zverev gets into a place where he's on the precipice of winning this match, what type of game style, what type of commitment to being aggressive and getting on top of the point do we see from him in those moments? I think that's the defining factor.
I'm looking at this match from the mental side of things because I think it's easy for us to imagine that Zverev has more mental scar tissue from getting very close but not quite multiple times before than he actually does. Okay. I think he's been able to sort of clear that out of his system. I think he absolutely thinks he is the best, and I think he thinks he's going to be hoisting the trophy at the end of this week. And he did say in press that he felt like there was almost too long between his first major final in 2020 and then his second at Roland Garros in 2024. And of course, there was almost 2 years where he was out for the ligaments that he tore at Roland Garros in 2022. He says in some ways now that he's been a regular contender at the very top and he's seen some of these results now, he's feeling more comfortable at the business end of the biggest tournaments. Make me a little scared for the rest of the field because he believes.
Well, as we heard from Shelton earlier, let's get inside the mind of Alex Zverev and see what he would consider a success at AO 2025.
I mean, I would like to win it, that's for sure. I think I'm at a stage where that would be success for me, and I'm obviously chasing that Grand Slam title, and I'm 2 matches away, and hopefully I can do that.
Alex Zverev there ahead of his semi-final against the 7th seed Novak Djokovic tomorrow. So quickly go around the table and give our predictions for who's going to be there on the last Sunday of the tournament. Just the 2 finalists. Blair?
Oh gosh. I bet against Novak the other night. I'm not going to do it again. So I'm going to say it's going to be Djokovic Sinner.
Okay. Jill.
I'm going to say Sinner Zverev.
Sinner Zverev.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Blair, and I think it's going to be a Djokovic and Sinner final on Sunday night.
Okay. That's good. I'm not going to give mine because I'm the host of this show. But if you'd like to put your predictions, chuck it in the comments. Let us know who you are predicting to play off in the men's final. Until then, thank you for joining us, Blair.
Thanks.
Jill,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much. Simon, hopefully see you again tomorrow.
Thanks, team.
We'll do it all again then on day 13. If you'd like to hear this episode in full, just search for The Tennis wherever you get your podcasts. You can also click the link below to listen to this episode, and also click the bell to make sure you stay subscribed to all of the episodes throughout the tournament and throughout the year. And we'll see you tomorrow.